Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. On Fridays, we talk about the product owner role in Scrum. We talk about patterns and anti-patterns that relate to ours and the team's collaboration with the product owner. And we've also put together a course to help you navigate that relationship. There's 18 modules, nearly 8 hours of tools, techniques, videos, handouts, presentations you can use to help you and your team work better with your product owner. The course is available at bit.ly/coach-your-PO. All lowercase, all one word, that's bit.ly/coach-your-PO. And now, on to the show, the Product Owner Show. Hello everybody, welcome to our TGIF and Product Owner episode this week with Omar Perez. Hey Omar, welcome back.
Thank you.
So Omar, it is Friday. We're in a coffee shop somewhere relaxing, having a coffee or a tea, and we're reflecting on the product owner role because, of course, as Scrum Masters, we work with many product owners, and we want to help them succeed, obviously. One of the things we need to do is to figure out when things are not working so well. And sometimes it's quite obvious. Other times it's not so obvious, but we do need to know what are the characteristics of a bad product owner. We'll talk about great product owner in a minute, but first, share with us the worst product owner anti-pattern you've witnessed in your career. What was that?
The worst product owner I've met is the product owner who doesn't want to be a product owner. I know it sounds obvious, but I've seen so many of those. Again, sometimes the organization, they just choose some manager, middle managers, or some business analyst, and they say, okay, this is an Agile team, you'll be their product owner. And they forcefully, put into the team, and they don't care about Agile. They don't care. I mean, they just put there. Sometimes it's because it's some technical, profile, and the only way they have to progress, to grow, means to have very better salary or higher rank in the organization, is to be anointed as a product owner, even if you don't really want to be one, but that's the only way they can progress. So unfortunately, I've met many times of those people who act as a product owner, but they don't really want to be a product owner.
And how does that come up? Because of course, I mean, we don't know what's going on in people's minds, right? Like, I mean, it's obvious if somebody was named to be a product owner as a career path that, you can understand that from the context, but not everybody that is promoted that way is actually a bad product owner, right? Like sometimes they are great product owners as well. So what are the characteristics that you identify in these people that clearly don't want to be product owners, but have been named and perhaps even forced to be one?
Well, it really varies a lot. But in general, what would make them, and probably I have a story to tell about, would make them a great product owner is that actually they care about Agile, because some people, they don't. They just act as project managers or micromanagers, because that's what they, I mean, you don't have to blame them. That's what they've seen, in the environment where they were working before. That's what they lived. That's what they've seen, and they're just thrown into the this Agile team, the Scrum team, and so I have to say that sometimes I've been able to gain their trust, and they started like trusting me, and I lead them, I coach them, and I've seen an evolution, but sometimes it hasn't been the case. So in that case, I'm doing damage control. So I'm trying to help the team deal with the situation, because sometimes they overtly tell you that I don't want to be a product owner, but I need to keep this job, and that's the only option I was given. So what I do is, like in this case, like damage control. I try to avoid the anti-pattern of acting as a Scrum Master and a product owner, but sometimes I rely maybe. Also, these product owners tend to be absent from the teams because they use any excuse to, other important meetings to escape the team ceremony, the Agile events, the Scrum events. So in that case, I invite someone in the team, usually some senior engineers, to act as the product owner. I know that's an anti-pattern, but it's what's worked for me. But sometimes, again, I'm successfully, I won't say convert them into an actual practitioner, but I see an evolution. And again, it's all based on trust. And a company, at the end of the day, it's a network of relationships. And that's why, when I've been also a consultant, and a contractor, but when I've been more successful as a Scrum Master or as an Agile practitioner is when I've been in-house, an employee, because that gives me the time to build all these relationships. That to build trust, that my agenda is for them to grow for as individually and as a team. And so once I gain their trust, they start being more open and they start asking more like smarter questions about how does this Agile thing work. So we're having like more interesting conversations.
Yeah, and that's a great tip, right? Like to start building a relationship, because no one, even the people who are forced to become product owners, no one wants to be a failure at whatever they're doing, right? Like nobody wakes up in the morning and say, I don't want to be a PO, so I'm going to be a failure as a PO. They probably wake up in the morning and say, I really want to talk to X, and I'll skip the team meeting because I really want to talk to X. And they don't recognize in themselves the role of the product owner who's there to serve the team. And gaining their trust is something that is very important if we are to help them succeed. Because of course, some people will not want your help because they're really focused on something else. They're focused on the next promotion or getting into a different product or whatever that may be. But of course, we do want to help them succeed and hopefully create what will be a great product owner dynamic together with us and the team. And therefore, we want to identify what that could look like. So share with us now, as the mirror image of what you just described, the best product owner you've ever worked with. How did they work?
Yeah, it was this background. He was new in the company. He came from a manufacturing background. Let's call him Mr. Lean, and he has never been exposed to Agile before. And he was clearly using the product owner as a stepping stone towards like a management, role. So he was, and also he was, of course, you could see he seemed to enjoy telling people what to do and very direct in doing so. And his obsession was performance. I mean, his background was as an athlete, an elite athlete. So he was very competitive. So you would say all the ingredients not to be the greatest product owner, but he had one thing. He only focused on success, and he understand that success is a team sport, and if the company had mandated Agile, there might be a reason. Even he didn't understand there might be a reason for that, and that he needed the team to be successful and to create the best. He also wanted to create the best potential product. So even if his background was so different to the values that I preached, he did respect me and he did listen to me. He asked me smart questions. He really learned a lot, and I could see that evolution, in him. Just the questions got smarter. The way he spoke to the team, was every time more like Agile friendly, and I saw in a process of maybe 6 months a complete transformation of this person. I mean, let's make no mistake, he was still very ambitious. He wanted to be a manager at the company, but he also wanted to build the best, possible product, and he was very competitive. And he was always asking the right questions. It was just amazing, how much. And the thing is that he also his superpower, if you want to call it, besides like being open-minded and learning as much as possible, his superpower was how he masterfully transferred to the team the user's pain points. He didn't tell the team, do this, do that, build the solution. The solution is like, okay, here's the problem we're supposed to address. He did so masterfully. You guys find the solution. He made them into problem solvers, not into like order takers that, build this feature, build that other feature. I've never seen someone, because he was a subject matter expert in that thing, it was masterful.
Yeah, and that's actually a great dynamic that the product owner can offer the team, right? To help them become problem solvers rather than what I sometimes call shopping list managers, right? Like just have a list and then you just go through it. That's a great story, and also highlights how important it is, not necessarily the background and knowledge of Agile, but how important it is to have like some very basic things in place through training or already natively there, namely being open-minded, of course, and then also to be able to talk about problems to be solved with the team rather than just, here's the list of features, let's do them all, and why don't you do them faster, right?
And by the way, having like a sports background, elite sports background, he and I sometimes we brainstorm about tricks and tips that we could use from that environment that we could bring to the team, right? For example, we use, in some sports teams, they use motivational videos, before like a retrospective sprint review to pump up, the morale of the team. So it was a great, coexistence. At the beginning, it was very rocky, but the learning curve and how we got our convergence as Scrum Master, we make such a different yet complementary leadership, duo that I've never had that experience before, and
Absolutely. And one story that highlights how important it is to invest and build that relationship with the product owner. Omar, we're getting close to the end, unfortunately, but before we go, do share with us, where can people find out more about you and the work that you're doing?
I'm not very active on social media, but I guess one day I will be. But I do have a LinkedIn profile, which is Scrum like Scrum, and like the first two letters of my first name. And I, hopefully one day I'll write something, like a book or some interesting article where I come up with some simplified model. Because, as someone said, all models are false, but some of them are useful. So I hope my aspirations to come up with some peopleware, model that could be useful to some teams or Scrum Masters to apply on their daily practice. That combines everything I've mentioned in the last 5 days.
Absolutely. And we'll put the link to Omar's LinkedIn page. So why not reach out and ask some follow-up questions? Omar, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your generosity with your time and your knowledge.
It's been my pleasure to be here, Vasco.
One more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast is over, but there's a lot more we have to share. We have developed our own membership site where you find a community of active and engaged Scrum Masters. In this site, you get access to exclusive content and get to interact with us, your podcast hosts, as well as the best Scrum Masters in the world. Join us at scrummastertoolbox.com/podcast and keep this podcast free of advertising. See you next week for one more week full of Scrum Master tips and tricks. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.